can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Casey Binkley of Movia Media and also Mobilytics.ai. And Casey, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. This is kind of, I started this off, this is part of the Top Agency series, but you also have a SaaS company. So it's also part of the Top SaaS series as well. So on the agency front, a couple good episodes. Jason Swank was on. He talked about how he built his agency to over 8 figures and sold it, then started buying up agencies and quickly surpassing what he did in the previous agency. Another good one was Todd Taskey. He has a Second Bite podcast. He actually helps pair agencies with private equity and helps sell agencies. And sometimes he found they make more on the second bite than they did on the first. And so that was an interesting episode about valuations. And from the SaaS side of things, Mailshake, I don't know, the cold email platform, Casey, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I had the founder of that on, and they had, I think, 70,000 customers or something like that. It was crazy. Wow. And they've also been buying up SaaS companies as well. So Sujan talked about what they've been doing over there. And another one, the co-founder of Zapier, I had on Wade, talked about how they built up Zapier and some of the ups and downs and challenges there. So check those out on InspiredInsider.com. And this episode is brought to you by Rise25. Rise25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast, or an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution. And in case we kind of call ourselves the magic elves that work in the background to make it a little easy for the host and the company so they can create great content and create amazing relationships. For me, the number one thing in my life is relationships, and I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com to learn more. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Casey Binkley. He's currently the founder and CEO of Movia. You can find it at movia.media and also Mobilytics, mobilytics.ai. And basically they specialize in out-of-home advertising, also called outdoor advertising. I had to look up, Casey, what OOH advertising is, and that's what it stands for. That makes sense. And Movia Media is where mobile billboards meet mobile retargeting. Okay, so Movia installs tracking and Wi-Fi collecting devices onto trucks, acting as moving billboards. They also offer real-time impression analytics and retargeting opportunities. It's pretty cool. So brands can actually view the real-time dashboard to see when and where and who their message got in front of and tracking their ROI. And they can also build relevant audiences and reach them again on mobile devices. So this obviously increases overall effectiveness far beyond what the traditional outdoor advertising can offer. So Casey, thanks for joining me.
Jeremy, great to be here. If you're ever looking for a part-time, sounds like you know my stuff almost as good as I do. So if you're looking for a part-time thing, come on over.
Well, I was talking about you. I was on with a friend, Zach Wilcox, who owns a logistics company. And I was like, you should check out what Casey's doing. Maybe you guys can partner in some way because they have a lot of, transportation relationships. And you obviously, you kind of, it's interesting when you got into this as dual-sided marketplace, right? Because you had to, find the brands to advertise, but also now you have another company now, but originally, I want you to talk about the original idea, but you have to get brands and you have to get these transportation companies and put them together. So what was the original idea of Movia? And then we can kind of talk about the trajectory that led you to patents and other things.
Yeah, totally. So I was kind of looking for my next opportunity. I had been running fast brewing with my partner over about a 4 or 5 year run, and we'd done awesome. We We were manufacturing, selling product all over the world. But I was just kind of looking for the next thing for myself. Looking for a bigger opportunity. Homebrew market's great, but there's like 5 million people in the whole world that homebrew. So it's like, relatively capped. It's also a hobby market. So, and I was also indulging a little bit more than I should, being in that type of industry. So I can remember we did most of our manufacturing in Michigan and China. So I was driving back from Michigan from Detroit, actually. Can remember literally like it was yesterday. On the highway, saw a blank truck with an ad, blank truck. I'm seeing billboards on the side of the highway. I'm just like, jeepers, there's a lot of great real estate here. So that was kind of like inception. I came back, I did some research on it, found that there was probably only about a half dozen companies in all of North America doing truckside mobile billboards. Dove in, what's going on with this industry, and found that tracking and analytics and measurement accountability was kind of like the factor that was missing. So my tech went to how can we measure, how can we make this accountable. So over the past 6, close to 8 years now, we've been building our platform. So we have a hardware device that goes on each truck. It's a GPS, but we do impression analytics through Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Most people leave their Wi-Fi or Bluetooth on. As the truck drives down the road, we pick up all this available data, and then we've got a live dashboard that a client can log into and see exactly where their truck was and how many people saw it. So that was kind of the starting point. Started building tech, kind of got the tech to a MVP where it was stable. I knew that we were going to need inventory if we were going to sell it. So then I went and spent about 6 months or 9 months building inventory to make sure I had the supply side of it. And then once that was built out, went after brands and advertisers on the demand side. So we have been executing mobile media campaigns for close to 6, going on 7 years now. It's been an amazing experience.
Casey, before you had your first, and by the way, if you're watching the video, this is audio version. There's a video version. We're looking at the Movia site, so you can kind of get a sense of what some of these campaigns could look like, and we'll pull some up in a second. But did you wait to get your first customer before the tech was built, or was it only after the tech was built?
It was after the tech was built. I was, I don't know what kind of made me inclined to do that. I guess like one, I was still running fast brewing at the time. So I always think, it can be nice to transition into something new while you're currently doing your day job, so to speak. Kind of gives you a little bit of time to do it part-time and build it to make sure that it's going to be something that's going to work out compared to just cutting it off and switch. So I'd kind of been building the tech for a while to ensure that it was going to work. And, before I talked to marketers or advertisers, I wanted to make sure what we'd built was solid and it actually provided value for them.
It's interesting you did that. I wasn't expecting that you built the tech before getting clients, because I was like, well, I could see a value in without the tech, right? Like, we know this truck route goes here. You put Casper on the side of it and you're going to get it across, it's going to be driving 7 hours to Minnesota or something, wherever it's going. Right. And so I see the value, but you wanted to show exact analytics. What is that what your thought was behind the tech part?
Yeah, I think like when a brand buys like, a stationary billboard on the side of the highway, they know where that unit is. They know that people are going to drive by or walk by. Like, it's evident that people are going to see it. But with moving media, it gets a little bit more difficult. Like, a bus or transit ad is a little bit, they're going to buy that loop that goes down Fifth Ave and across 14th and back up 8th or whatever. So they know that kind of like the route that they bought. Whereas our logistics companies are like, yeah, we would have trucks that are downtown Manhattan, but did they go on 5th? Did they go on 12th? What streets were they on? So I was like kind of steadfast in being able to showcase this data to an advertiser, because I just felt like they wanted to see it, but 2, they needed to see it to make, we're not necessarily working with, we love working with mom and pop, smaller coffee shops, organizations, but as you can see, a lot of the brands that we're working with are large national or regional brands. So when they're spending a significant amount of marketing dollars, the proof has got to be in the pudding, so to speak. So
Talk about
yeah.
your first breakthrough with getting actually a transportation vehicle to say yes and then a brand to say yes. What was a milestone in the company for that?
So yeah, I think like a lot of people think like signing trucking companies up or logistics partners is like an easy thing, and it makes sense because there's a rev share going on. They're not just doing this for free. So a lot of people think, hey, everybody's going to do this. Well, there's probably only 10 or 15% of logistics companies that can actually entertain this. So like one, a lot of companies are under contract with their whoever they're delivering for. So if they're like a Home Depot delivery, well, those Home Depot trucks have got to stay white. They don't want off brands or anything on them. So there's a lot of trucks out there that are kind of like that. Two, you have companies that have their own branding on them. So it's hard to, say, hey, it's not valuable space because it clearly is because I want to pay them for it. So I can't fault anybody for wanting to keep their own branding up because it's obviously terrific. Two, some companies are just too busy. They can't be bothered. They got their day-to-day operations, and to make incremental revenue on their trucks sounds good, but it's just too hard from an operational standpoint. So again, I go back to this kind of 10 to 15% of the market that's out there. I think we would have, it's many years ago, but it would have been just like breakthroughs with like local companies. One of our biggest kind of early partners was a company called Remco. They've got about 300 kind of last mile delivery units. So for us, that was like a really big milestone. And then on the brand side, the two that stick out to me, our very first client ever was a company called Core Abrasives. They sell cutting blades for like countertops and stuff. So they sell in like Home
So random.
Depot.
This one
random.
right here? Is this
No,
it?
that's cutting edge. Core, I
Oh.
think, is a little bit lower on the case studies page. We keep going down. I believe they should still be up there.
Being the first, they better be on here.
Yeah, I would think so. I know we've done
There's a lot of case studies here. I'm getting through them.
There it is, right at the bottom in the middle, Core Braces.
Right here.
One,
Perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
So yeah, Core was our very first client. They came to us. They actually saw we had a truck ad out for ourselves, just the back, talking about mobile trucks. So Pino, the founder of Core Abrasives, had seen our truck, reached out, and they were our very first client up. So I always appreciate working with them. The first is big, and then like they're not a big, they're a great organization. They sell all over, but they're not like a big prominent brand. I think our biggest one, and this might surprise south of the border, has been Travel Cuba. So Travel Cuba, the kind of state tourism arm of the government of Cuba, is heavy. Canada is one of their biggest tourism markets. It's kind of Canada and Europe, obviously not the US. But yeah, we've been working with them for 5 years. When we started working with them, their annual visitor numbers were just less than 2 million. And we have taken them all the way up to 4.5 million annual visitors.
How did they hear about you?
I think I would have just been reaching out to like marketing agencies and got in touch with the agency that deals with them, and they basically had a crack. And then yeah, so it's been true.
I love the Core story specifically, Casey, because you ate your own dog food with it. You actually put an ad on the side of a truck, and they responded to it.
There's no better proof, and it actually works.
So, from a brand perspective, I know you work with companies like Amazon and Grillo's Pickles. Talk about what you did with Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon's been an amazing partner. So there's kind of two things that we work with Amazon on. One, from an inventory side of things. So Amazon's got some great last mile delivery trucks that are predominantly like residential based. So great for like CPG, direct to consumer, any sort of retail brand. You're, in residential neighborhoods. Some people might see the Casper truck delivering a mattress. Well, they just assume that their neighbor ordered a Casper mattress. So it kind of creates this larger than life. So we want to help or work with them from an inventory standpoint. And then two, we actually help with campaigns with their advertising clients going out onto trucks. But this one of our initial campaigns that we did with them was inclusion diversity campaign. Went live in 5 markets, predominantly kind of the South or Midwest. It was 2 trucks in each market, and it was Alexa, what is love? So they had done a promotion with their Alexa home device that if you had asked Alexa, what is love? Alexa didn't really have an answer for that. So as part of the campaign, they pre-recorded kind of, what is love to a whole bunch of different people. So if you were to ask Alexa, what is love? You could get a response from this person or that person or a whole bunch of different responses. So campaign was really powerful. We had one of our truck drivers actually ended up meeting the woman of his dreams. He was out on a delivery and she noticed this ad on the side of the truck and said, wow, this man is like really progressive and is into stuff. And they ended up going on some dates and it ended up true fairy tale fashion. So it was pretty cool in that sense.
That's awesome. We'll talk about Grillos and pickles for a sec in a minute, but talk about partnerships, because I noticed when I was doing some research that you are very strong in promoting partnerships, and it's one of the ways that you've grown the company.
Yeah, I think we always kind of joke internally that we're like the triple win. So not just the win-win, it's the triple win. So we partner with logistics companies. So it's a win for them because we're driving more revenue for their business. Plus their trucks look amazing and they typically have clients that get excited about what they're doing with these campaigns. So it's a win for the logistics company. On the other side, it's a win for the brand because they're getting terrific exposure. We're one of the most cost-effective out-of-home channels out there. So from an efficiency point of view, we're bang on. We've got very cool targeting capabilities. So from a brand perspective, amazing value and amazing results on a brand side. And then the third win would be our internal team. So, we're making this all happen, and we love to kind of coin the triple win together with everyone.
And then what about, because you get a lot of probably referrals from actual logistics companies that recommend different trucks too, right? Who are other types of partners that help with, kind of driving business?
Yeah, by all means. We work with like Amazon on that side of it. We've got Etsy. We've got Canada Cartage. There's like a whole bunch of fairly large carriers. And then we start to work with like regional or like smaller, maybe you own 5 or 15 trucks. The logistics industry in general is extremely fragmented. I can't remember the exact stat, but it's something like 90% of trucking companies own less than 10 or 15 trucks. So like there is some huge players out there that own a massive amount, but there's a lot of small kind of regional or local players that we work with as well. So, and that community is very referral based. So when you have a good experience, you run a campaign with Casper mattresses, good experience. And then we got another one coming up for like countertops. If we need additional trucks, we can typically reach out to our existing partners and get referrals into that. So definitely a big proponent of referrals.
Talk about the team for a second and the evolution of the team. Because when you first started, you had the manufacturing business in the home, wine and brewing. And it sounds like you bootstrapped the company. Talk about the milestones and what your team looked like in the journey.
Totally. So yeah, when I first, we're definitely been bootstrapped organization. When I first started, I had a tech partner named Zachary Levy. Him and I started and worked together to kind of build the first MVP for about a year or so. And then I had kind of done my exit out of the brewing company and I was looking to kind of go full time with Movia. And just Zach and I just decided that it wasn't going to be the best fit working together. So I then needed to find a new head of tech. So my CTO that's been with me now for 6 years is Gregory Malach. He is an absolute genius. I think I'll just kind of chat about our tech a little bit while I'm here. But like, I think a lot of people look at our tech that, hey, you build this, hardware sensor base. It has analytics and it all sounds simple, but our tech stack is very advanced. One, we build hardware. So, there's companies out there, that's all they do is build hardware. Well, we build hardware. Two, we build an operating system that makes all these hardware components work together. Again, there is companies out there that all they do is specialize in operating systems to make the hardware work. So we have, again, built custom software to make a custom operating system. Two of these devices all have a SIM card. So we're sending this data in real time that hits our back end. We could be processing 1 million scans a second, depending on how many devices are online. The data is coming in from all over the world, North America, Europe. We've got devices in Australia, South Africa. So this data is coming in at a very fast, furious rate. So we've got back-end data processing. Again, some companies, all they do is process data and specialize in that. And then two, we pull this data in real time for a customer-facing dashboard. So you've got this whole front-end component going on. So we have really married 4 different tech stacks together: hardware, operating system, back-end, and then front end. So there is a lot going on. So I give a ton of kudos to my technology team and leader in general. Philip Randall has also been very instrumental in our business. So it's kind of myself, Gregory, and Philip. Philip's our COO. So he handles the operation, kind of executional side of the business. So we couldn't, we couldn't exist without each of us, or the 3 of us together, because, very important roles. And then we've got a few people under Phil on the operations side. Gregory's got a few people under him on his tech side. And then we've got a sales team that's kind of 3 people as well right now.
What were some of the challenges? If you're looking also, I'm pulling up the Mobilytics, you could check them out, mobilytics.ai. Why the decision to release it to other people? Like, you could have kept it under your own and just kept it proprietary, but it sounds like you've offered the platform and other companies can use it right now too.
Yeah, so we've always had a lot of people say, hey, the value that you bring the marketing industry is like in the tech that you built. Mobile billboards and truck side ads are great, but like this, tech stack that you built for real-time one-to-one impression metrics is like very huge. Being bootstrapped, it's taken us a bit to get the tech stack really stable and solid. We kind of hit that milestone about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And then we've started to do licensing so most of the digital mobile billboard trucks in the US have our technology from a measurement perspective. We're now starting to partner with transit networks. We're doing static out of home, like roadside billboards. And the other one that's kind of really picking up in terms of pace right now is indoor retail media networks. So everybody in that home space knows it, but for those that don't, kind of the next wave in out of home is in-store retail. So your Whole Foods, your Trader Joe's, all these big retail stores are going to have tons of screens inside them that are going to be ad networks. So we're starting to power measurement solutions for these.
Talk about some of the challenges you had to overcome on the tech side, because like you said, there's a lot of moving pieces here, from the hardware to the software to the back end, front end. What did you have to overcome to actually, and then you're putting it in conditions, like it's on a truck, it's snowing, it's raining, like there's a lot of environmental things as well.
I'm happy that you're picking up on that, Jeremy, because yes, we've had a lot of fun over the years building different hardware iterations. We're going on to V5 right now. So when we initially started, I think a lot of kind of prototyping starts on Raspberry Pi boards. That's, we were right there with everybody else. So we built on Raspberry Pis for the first few years. We were kind of doing small scale rollouts with them, but realized we needed a custom PVC board. So yeah, we've got a customized board or kind of solution that we've been doing for kind of 2 years. So V4 is a custom solution, and V5 will be our kind of secondary custom solution coming out. But hardware has been tough. The operating system is also tough because it's like kernel level development. So like you've got to have somebody that is a very advanced programmer to get in and program operating systems. So one, they're hard to find. Two, they're expensive. So operating systems have been big. I would say like data backend, Gregory's got a big kind of knowledge in backend. So I'd say like, that side, I wouldn't say it's easy, but we've had, that would be our least cumbersome component. And then front end, there's lots going on there. So front end's always been fun to build as well. But yeah.
Where does it go on the truck? Like when I'm visualizing a truck, where does the hardware device go?
So it plugs into a 12-volt outlet, a cigarette lighter, and then it just sits up on the dash by the windshield. So it's a very small device. I got one on my desk. Let me grab it.
Yeah,
here.
check it out.
So this is one of the units. This is V4. Our V5 will not have any external antennas on it. It'll be a little bit smaller, basically be like a small black box. So we've got a couple different power sources. We've got a 12-volt like cigarette lighter for vehicles. We've got a normal wall jack. And then we've also got a USB power source as well. So we can typically
So they'll plug it right in on the front and like it will sit on the dashboard somewhere or somewhere in the front.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty small form factor. So when you stick it up kind of by the dash at the front of the windshield, one, you get great signal visibility because it's like in the open compared to, signal strength. We're using the same technology as your home Wi-Fi router. If you put your Wi-Fi router in the basement and go up to the third floor, you're going to get signal or not. So any sort of obstructions, metal, cement, brick, whatever it is. So we like to have kind of clear visual sight lines is where we get the best signal strength.
So why did you go out and get patents then? For a company, I can see why it protects your IP, but also it's not a small decision because, it's capital and it's time. Talk about the decision to get patents.
Yeah, I guess it was like, I thought what we built is novel because nobody else had been doing it or is doing it. So I wanted to kind of make sure we stuck our flag in the ground. I figured that the measurement kind of body was going to develop into different ways. A lot of like out of home measurement is done through telco or SDK data, which is opted in data. So when you download Facebook or Instagram on your phone and you hit accept, those apps track your location data. Then there is data companies that basically buy this data or have access to it that will provide measurement analytics, but it's a small portion of the overall data that's out there. So that, and then like potential fundraising opportunities. It's, as a startup that's thinking about potentially raising money, if you have patents versus not, you're in definitely a better position.
So who are I get the clients from the Movia side of things, right? Because you can create revenue streams for logistics companies and trucks. You can get brands more exposure. Talk about the ideal clients, customers for Mobilytics.
So Mobilytics, like we've started in kind of the moving measurement space. So anybody that has moving out of home inventory, it could be trucks, it could be cars, it could be taxi tops, it could be transit or buses. So that was kind of like the first forte. We're now starting to work with a lot of the digital out of home providers. So the one thing that I think is, I've been in that home space for 5 or 6, almost 7 years at this point. We always talk about growing the out of home market share. So out of home represents 5% of all marketing dollars. Digital is roughly 50. You got TV that's maybe 20, 25, and then there's kind of out of home, print, radio, kind of the smaller channels. So everybody talks about how out of home should grow. I've been here again for 7 years. There's been a ton of innovation in this space. We've digitalized a lot of the assets. So when you drive down the highway now, they're not just static billboards, but they're digital big screens. So that's been a huge innovation. We've also went programmatic. So you can serve digital out of home in real time through buying platforms like Broadsign or Hivestack or Place Exchange. They're basically Google AdWords, but for physical billboards. But again, we haven't grown our market share. We're just stuck at this 5. And I think what's happened is when a digital buyer looks at programmatic out of home right now, they have a hard time feeling confident in how it's measured and transacted. So when an online buyer buys online, they buy in real time, they buy in one-to-one data. It's like they know what they're getting. But when they buy programmatic out of home, that data that they're buying or that impression measurement is done off SDK data, which could be a week or 2 weeks or 30 days old. So it's not dynamic. It's basically like what your impression is for the month is what the impression is. Well, advertisers know that impressions are dynamic. If the Madison Square Gardens gets out, those bars and restaurants are going to spike because there's lots of people around there. So I think the big opportunity right now with out of home is going to real-time one-to-one. And what that's going to do is make a digital media buyer confident to buy more programmatic out of home, which is going to increase our market share and visibility in general.
How did Grillo's use you?
So Grills on the Movia side did an amazing campaign with us this summer. We were live in LA. So they did 20 trucks. The trucks stick out because they are bright green and very hard to miss. So we've delivered it's close to 150 million out of home impressions. There was a video that went viral this summer on TikTok. So somebody was following one of the Grillo's trucks and did this awesome recording, asking the truck to flip over because they wanted to get some of the pickles that were inside. Anyways, the video went viral on TikTok. There was over 275,000 likes. So like over 250,000 likes on this video, which for an out-of-home campaign is like, the essence of going viral. And they also saw a 40% increase in sales this summer in LA. So there was a lot of people eating pickles in LA this summer.
On the Mobilytics side, talk about some of the use cases there. I'm looking at the site and LED truck media.
Yeah, like there's a lot of digital mobile billboard operators out there that have, trucks with the big screens that drive around. It's hard, again, for these clients or operators to provide measurement abilities on their units. So,
what were they doing before? Just guesstimating or what?
I mean, yeah, a lot of them weren't even doing anything. They were just saying, hey, the truck was out there for 8 hours today. It was downtown Chicago at these locations. And, other than that, we know people were there, but we don't really have a clue. So there was that. Or people were using SDK data, which is opted in data from apps that are tracking your locations. But that's a very small portion of all data that's out there. It's maybe 10, maximum kind of 20%. So they were always either low on the numbers or having to use some multiplier to get it up to kind of a normalized value. So, I mean, operators now can, one, have this data at the touch of their fingertips, or if they want to give a client login so the client can monitor these trucks and know how many people are seeing them in real time, it's kind of taken their units into not the future, but relevant times.
How is LED truck media using you? So they already had relationships with different, trucks or billboards, and they're using your sensors, or how does it work for them?
Yeah, exactly. So they have digital trucks all over the country, and basically we will put our sensors on their trucks so they can provide measurements. So they get a dashboard that they can show their clients, and they can also upsell their clients on mobile retargeting campaigns. So sending digital messages back out onto the phones through apps like Facebook, Instagram, the Weather Network. So one, it's a bit of an upsell for them because, they're upselling a retargeting campaign, so more margin. And the other thing it does is it strengthens their relationship with the client, because now you're not dealing just with the traditional or out of home buying portion of it. You're dealing with the digital teams as well. So digital teams get the data, they action it, they see great results, and now they want more of this data, which in turn means more out-of-home campaigns.
So it creates more revenue because they could also charge, if they want, I don't know if they choose to charge a dashboard fee for them to actually see all the data, and also that also creates an upsell for mobile retargeting as well.
Exactly. Bingo.
And then for the truck media, what type of, is it on trucks? Kind of like I'm seeing Bulldog mobile billboards. Do they have similar kind of use cases there, or are they different? Is it different types of inventory that they're putting the sensors on?
They would be similar. So there's probably about 50 or 60 digital mobile billboard operators across the US. We've got, I would definitely say over half, maybe close to like 60% of them using our tech on their trucks so far. And then other use cases would be like transit advertising. So like bus advertising or car advertising, or even like internal fleets. You know, if you're a plumbing company and you want to measure and see how many people are seeing your vehicles that are branded out in the community, well, we can put sensors on your vehicles and know exactly, you know, how many people see it, where the units were, and then we could retarget digital messages back out to, you know, build your customer base more. So it's great for advertisers, but it's also good for company owned fleets as well.
What are some other use cases that you see that's applicable, maybe that are using you or maybe not? Like you mentioned, there's lots of HVAC companies, plumbing companies that have trucks all over cities that can use it. What are some other use cases besides maybe a media company like we're seeing with, you know, Bulldog or LED truck media?
I mean, in-store retail. So retailer attractions. So if you're interested in knowing how many people came to your retail store over what time, when are your peak hours? Is it between 9 and 11? Or are you busiest between 3 and 5? What parts of the store did somebody, you know, they came in the front entrance, but did they go to the back corner where that kind of display stand is? Or did they only make it halfway through the store? So there's like lots of in-store insights. I mean, those would kind of be like, the other one would be like special events. So like festivals or trade shows where, you know, you set your 10 by 10 booth up. Well, how many people actually came to your booth? Or, you know, if I'm at a big music festival and I'm running the t-shirt stand, well, how many people came over to the t-shirt stand? So kind of gives the ability for event organizers to pull analytics that they can, you know, provide to brands or their partners that are participating in the events.
Is there a minimum number of sensors or something that you need a commitment to for? Like, let's say, you know, a brand's like, yeah, we want to do this, but I don't know if it's worth it for you as a company to like send them one sensor for one tent or something.
I mean, we've got no minimums, but we've got volume pricing incentives. So we're happy to ship 1, 2, 5 sensors. Our volume incentives start at 25 or more. So we go kind of 25 to 100 to 500 to a couple thousand. So depending on, yeah.
Casey, I want to talk about, so like there's unfair advantage versus bigger opportunity. And the decision, maybe it was an easy decision, maybe not, because with Movia, you had an unfair advantage, right? You have these patent sensors, you have a dashboard, you have analytics, and you're weighing that against bigger opportunity, like actually providing other companies in the industry with the exact solution that gives you an unfair advantage. So talk about the decision to release Mobilytics or these sensors. Was it tough, and what was your thought process at the time?
Great question. Because yeah, it's been something that our team had spent many years kind of determining or thinking about for sure. I think, you know, one, we had operators reaching out. So we had digital, the line medias, the LED truck medias, the Bulldog mobile billboards. They were reaching out. They wanted the tech. So we knew that we were going to have clients. So it wasn't like this massive leap of faith or people interested in this.
How did they hear about it?
I mean, we've been in market now for 5 or 6 years under the Movia brand, and they realize we have had a competitive advantage with this real-time tech that we've had. So, you know, the industry's definitely known about it. So one, we had people reaching out. Two, we love the mobile billboard business, but it can be a little bit spotty. You know, it's not like a SaaS platform where you're got that reoccurring, that kind of stable revenue. We could hit a big campaign and then you could not hit a big campaign. kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. So it's, the Mobilytics is a bit more of a steady revenue. And we truly think that the out of home market in general is that kind of this inflection point where real time one-to-one data is, in my opinion and our team's opinion, kind of going to be the crux of what takes out of home to that kind of next level. So, to hoard it all to ourselves, is that going to be great for the out of home community? I mean, it's good for us, but like out of home in general has the ability where we could, I read an article in the summer. So the out of home worldwide is a $30 to $35 billion market worldwide, billboard advertising. There was an article I read in the summer that estimated the online global ad fraud market, so spend that went into fraudulent online ads last year, was $86 billion. So that's 2 times bigger than all the billboard advertising in the entire world. Well, we're very real. When a billboard goes up, it's physical. There's no fraud that's happening because it's physically on the side of the highway. But it's just not measured properly. The numbers aren't there. So I think that there's a big opportunity for out of home to grow in market share, become real time, and be bought and transacted very similar to a Google AdWords account where, digital buyers are 25 to 30 years old. They're not, you don't have an older person that's in the digital buying chair. And for those buyers to become confident, I think out of home is going to become really sexy in the next, not that it isn't already, but in the general media mix, everybody's like, oh, out of home. Well, if I could buy that billboard in real time and know that hey, my boss just left the office and I know that he's driving home right now, guess what? I'm going to buy 5 billboards in real time on his way home from the office. So he knows that I'm doing my job. That's where I think out of home is going to get cool and kind of, savvy like that.
Have you seen any of those right now interesting use cases out there that you didn't expect people are using your sensors for?
I mean, I think I've started to realize how big of a need there is for this in an indoor application, because telco data and SDK data can be very hard. I'm just taking Toronto for an example, but a lot of our shopping, like our Sobeys, Loblaws, our main grocery stores are in the bottom of huge apartment buildings. It could be 20 or 30 stories tall. Well, it's very hard to get any data in these places because it's just so I think that there's a big need for indoor to be measured more.
Yeah, I'm looking here. It's just interesting. There's a lot of use cases that gets my entrepreneurial ADD mind going here with outdoor digital. Obviously, we talked about, but static mobile. There's digital washroom ads, static washroom ads, wall murals, airport advertising. So there's a lot of convention centers, a lot of interesting use cases. Casey, I have one last question. Before I ask it, I just want to point people to check out mobilytics.ai. You can check out movia.media to learn more about what Casey and his team is working on. My last question is just resources. As a leader entrepreneur, what are some resources? It could be books. It could be mentors that have helped you throughout your journey.
Yeah, I think there's I do a lot of YouTube podcasting and whatnot. But I also would think depending on where you are, I always find that there's kind of state or government or municipal resources that are out there trying to help propel the kind of entrepreneurial community forward. In Toronto, we've got federal programs, we've got provincial, there is municipal programs, and then you've got local universities that are kind of starting stuff. So I always think just tapping into the broader kind of entrepreneurial community in whatever municipality. There's incubators all over the place. There is 1,000 people that want to see entrepreneurs succeed right now and programs set up for that. And I think that when you really dive in and find out what's there, they can be there's the OCI, Ontario Center of Excellence, or innovation here in Ontario. there's Mars, there's Community Tech in Waterloo. Like, there's programs out there that, one, they have mentors. So you're going to meet people, get ideas. There could be funding opportunities. They could host social events for like networking. I think like as an entrepreneur, some people get fixated. Hey, I got this great idea. I got to pull it off. It's like an idea is a dime a dozen. It's the execution that's like really going to make or break it. And if you're not going to talk about your idea, it's hard to think that you're ever going to execute that well because you've got it all bottled up in your head, right? And I think a lot of people that don't kind of come from that mindset, they like harbor their ideas, they don't want to share them. And then maybe they spend all this time working on an idea only to find out like, hey, it's maybe not going to work, or nobody wants to buy this, or it's like not what I thought. So I always think just like talk to everybody about your idea. Nobody's going to steal your idea. You're way down the path anyways. Everybody's too busy doing their own stuff. So like, don't think like, I think it's about kind of broadening up and.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have any favorite books on the topics that you've looked at throughout the years?
I think like, I used to do a lot of reading in terms of like sales reading. I think I've like shifted my mindset where I'm like a little bit more into that mindset. One person that's been instrumental to me over the last few years has been a guy named Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm not sure if he's on your or anybody's radar, but
yeah, I've heard of him for sure.
He's a really cool guy. He's got just insane stories about, he's a quantum physicist, neuroscientist, and I'm an active into meditation on a daily basis. I think that Joe has really helped with my clarity, my positivity, just knowing like the direction that I'm going. So, I think that there's lots of business stuff that you can read on and become good at sales or partnerships or negotiating or whatever it is. But I think having a healthy mindset in general is kind of one of the biggest things that I've seen over the last few years.
Yep.
It's been very positive for me.
Casey, I want to be the first one to thank you. Everyone check out movia.media and also check out mobilytics.ai, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Casey.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the same.